Hey, thank you. I'm going to call this meeting of the Assembly Revenue Committee to order. Madam Secretary, please take the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Present.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Here.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine.
Present.
Assemblyman Hafen.
Here.
Assemblywoman Kasama.
Here.
Assemblyman Miller.
Present.
Assemblyman O'Neill.
Here.
Assemblyman Ortlicker.
Here.
Assemblyman Roberts.
Here.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Here.
Chair Cohen.
And I am here. Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you to the committee. I know a few of you had to jump over from another committee hearing that just ended, so we really appreciate you getting into this hearing as quickly as you did. So I'd like to welcome everyone who's watching, or I guess I should say also that we do have a quorum. So I'd like to welcome everyone who's watching to this meeting, also to people who are listening over the internet. Our meetings for the time being will be held in this format only, and they're regularly scheduled for 4 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Some housekeeping before we begin. Please silence your electronic devices. Wow, that was really fitting. I hope you could hear that. Courtesy and respect in our interactions during our meetings are required. Additionally, courtesy and respect when working with staff before or after meetings is also required. Committee members will be using our laptops and possibly other devices to not only look at the bills and exhibits, printouts, things like that. So because of that, we may be looking on different screens and in different directions. Please don't take that as a sign of inattention or disinterest. We're just trying to navigate our way through our new reality of online hearings. As a reminder, as stated in our agenda, we'll have public comment, which will occur at the end of the meeting and may be limited in duration. Details on how to participate during public comment are available on Nellis, which you can get to on the legislature's website. I didn't even touch anything. Persons who wish to provide testimony or attend the meeting must pre-register online on the Nellis website. Registration opens when an agenda is posted to the Nevada Legislature's website. Upon successful registration, registrants will receive a telephone number, meeting ID, and instructions for joining the meeting. As a reminder, pursuant to rule number 54 of the Assembly Standing Rules, if your support for a bill, when you testify, that means you support the bill or resolution as constructed, you approve the measure as written, and you approve it along with the proposed amendments that have been approved by the sponsor. If you oppose it, it means you don't support the measure as written, or you oppose it, but you have some revised amendments that have not been approved by the sponsor of the measure. And this means if you really, really like a bill and you support most of it, but you have any tiny little change that you want to have made to it, that is technically opposition. So you have to testify in opposition, but can certainly say how you feel about the bill and your support of it in general. A neutral position on a bill or resolution is one in which you offer a particular insight on the measure, but express no position on the measure for or against it. So additionally, please note that everyone in the video is a presenter or with the presenter to provide information or a member of the assembly or staff. This may change in the future, but for the sake of fairness, for now, this is how we're going to proceed with our hearings. And then any support, opposition, or neutral testimony will be taken over the phone. So with that, we're now going to move on to our presentation of AB 69, which revises provisions governing economic development. With us is Michael Brown, the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Development. And Director Brown, I'll have you make your presentation and also introduce your team who will be presenting with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm joined today by the two deputies of GOED, Bob Potts in Carson City and Chris Sanchez in Southern Nevada, and by Eric Price from the Film Division and Jimmy Hum, who's handling our legislative affairs this session, and they're available to answer any questions about the matters that are here. As I said at the first hearing, when I became executive director, I challenged my staff to look at our statutes and look at our organization and find anything that needed updated, because many things dated back, a decade or more. The division, and so we brought this bill forward to make some changes in what is officially called the Division of Motion Pictures and what we want to call the Nevada Film Office, and some other procedural things with regards to motion pictures, and then some other structural changes to go at. And I think these are pretty straightforward, and I'll just walk through them quickly. The Division of Motion Pictures was established by the legislature in 1983 to attract film to the states, films to come film here in Nevada. The bill seeks to contemporize the law to reflect the modern operations and goals of the office, starting by changing the name from the Division of Motion Pictures to the Nevada Film Office. We want to specifically mention that this includes commercials and other audiovisual media rather than just the term electronic transmission. This is a constantly evolving world, and we want to make sure that everyone understands, we're doing reality TV shows, commercials, and all of those types of things. Changes the name from the Division of Motion Pictures to the Nevada Film Office. Gives it an updated range so that people understand that it is covering a much broader area than just motion pictures. Section 5 allows the Film Office to make a library of audiovisual recordings and available locations accessible online, rather than a requirement to produce a large number of hard copies. The hard copies have been expensive, they're less than environmental friendly, and it's much easier if we move this database online. Section 5 and 6 update the term motion picture to media production company, as this is again a term more relevant to the times. And then finally, pertaining to the Nevada Film Office, the alternative signature requirements removed, requiring all registrations and approvals to come directly through the office. That streamlines the application and signature process and ensures that productions coming into the state are monitored and approved by this office. And I'll walk through the BNI changes, and then Eric can address any questions about the motion picture division. So when I became the Director of Business and Industry appointed by Governor Sisolak, I actually had no line of sight into the state's economic development activities, despite the fact that the Department of Business and Industry had 11 or 12 different divisions that were somehow involved in commerce and industry in Nevada. And the GOED board, when it was created, included 3 constitutional officers, 6 private citizens, and 2 non-voting members, the director of DETR and the director of the chancellor of the Nevada System of Higher Education. And yet the director of Business and Industry, which, ostensibly in some way, shape, or forms interacts with 25% of the economy of the state, wasn't a non-voting member. And yet the irony was that Deputy Director Potts was a member of one of the key business and industry boards dealing with private activity bonds. And so I built an informal relationship with Paul Anderson and then with Chris Sanchez when he was interim director. But when I was at Business and Industry, we would have folks come to us and say, you should be doing more to promote the banking industry. You should be doing more to promote the insurance industry. And yet the regulators there, the insurance commissioner, the banking commissioner, they're there to make sure people don't color outside the lines. They're not there to kind of do the basic business promotion. And so then when, lo and behold, the governor appointed me to be director of business, appointed me executive director of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and then appointed Terry Reynolds, who was the deputy when I was at BNI. We came up with a much more formal, once a month, have a department and office consultation, and also bringing Terry and his offices much more into our planning. And I thought, well, we really need to fix this on an ongoing basis, because in essence, business and industry is this vast Rolodex of opportunities and contacts and industry ties. And so what this would do would be a simple change, which would basically take the director of the Department of Business and Industry and make them the third non-voting member of the GOED board. And at that point, he would be in the information flow, he or she would be in the information flow, and then we could sit down and have some planning. And this particularly came through to us in the area of insurance, because Nevada is an attractive place for what they call captive insurance companies. And there are various captive insurance events pre-pandemic that Nevada needs to be at and promote doing business in Nevada. But at the same time, our regulators should not be the ones kind of doing business promotion. They're regulators. And so I think bringing Terry Reynolds or bringing the Department of Business and Industry onto the GOED board, we'll have a much more unified effort. And so that was one of the primary thrusts of this bill. The second is we've had confusion over the years as to what constituted a quorum of the board. As I say, we had six voting members from the private sector, 3 constitutional officers, and 2 non-voting members. And Madam Chair, they say that the send button is the best proofreader of an email. And I will say the best proofreading of a piece of legislation is about 5 minutes before you have to testify on it, because I don't think that the language we have has still got it right. And I'd like to make sure that Jimmy could work with LCB staff and really get this language right. The intent is to define the quorum around the voting members of the board, and so that the board would only have a quorum if you had the necessary members of the voting board, not the non-voting board. So I'd like to have the opportunity to come back at a work session and with cleaned up language in that area. And then finally, this suggested enhancement came from a member of the search committee that was charged with recruiting me into this position. This is one of, I know there's one other cabinet level office, the director of the Department of Agriculture, where before the governor makes an appointment, there has to be names brought forward for the governor to choose from. There may be other examples, but I know that's specific with the Department of Agriculture. When I was in the Department of Business and Industry, it was strictly a direct gubernatorial appointment. There was no review panel in between. Well, remember there was a search committee to try to find a successor to Paul Anderson. Chris Sanchez had stepped in as interim director. And they struggled to find a third candidate because the law required that they submit at least 3 names. And they struggled for some time, and it actually delayed the proceedings for quite some time. And so what this would do is basically it would leave a requirement that their board form a committee to conduct a search. But basically it would say now that it would adjust it so that up to 3 could be submitted by the governor, but not mandating 3. And like I said, they went through quite a difficult time trying to find a third candidate for that appointment. And that's the legislation in summary.
Thank you for that. And thank you to Director Reynolds from BNI for being here and also making herself available in case we have any questions for you about the bill as well. With that, I do have some questions. Assemblyman Yeager, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Brown, for the presentation. A couple of quick questions. I know throughout the bill, and you referenced that you're changing Division of Motion Pictures to the Nevada Film Office, and I just wondered if that's something that you think is going to help attract folks from the industry here. I guess I just wonder, is that sort of how other states call it, and are we just trying to modernize that to really align the name with what the mission is?
Madam Chair, and Assemblyman, if you don't mind, I'll let Eric address that, as he's brought this forward when I asked them for any updates we needed to our statutes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the question, Eric Price, for the record. The change reflects what the office has been operationally operating under for at least the 7 years that I have been here. Again, as Director Brown, Executive Director Brown had mentioned, he just tasked us with looking at legislation that affects our agencies and cleaning that up. And this was one kind of cleanup change. For your information, offices around the country in different states operate under a variety of terms. So there's really no generally accepted term. We were merely just updating the legislation to reflect what operationally we have been calling ourselves, at least for the time that I've been the director.
Thank you. Madam Chair, could I ask a follow-up, please?
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the other question is about in Section 5, this library requirement. Certainly understand that we probably don't need to maintain a physical library with hard copies, but I guess I was curious, this program to promote the production of motion pictures, which includes the library, is that something, once it's on the internet, is that going to be generally available to members of the public to look at, or is that sort of going to be a private area of the site that would only be disclosed to motion picture companies that you might be working with? And I really just ask out of a sense of curiosity, because I think I'd be interested in seeing some of those locations in the state and where they are. So the question is just whether that's going to be publicly available in general or not.
Great. Thank you very much for the question, Eric Price, for the record. Yes, that information is available to the public and has been at our website at www.nevadafilm.com. The previous NRS required the printed copy. So by making it digital, we're going to be saving money to not have to print that out. It has been available to the public online and will continue to be available to the public online moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have a question from Assemblywoman Constein.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question is going through where all the changes were made, I came across Section 6, Provision 2A that concerns the media production company agrees to pay within 30 days after the filming of a motion picture is completed. And I immediately thought of AB 20 that we just talked about on Thursday. So my question, it's an opportunity to ask this question, if qualified production expenditures can be used to pay on transferable tax credits, how does that 270 days sort of intersect with this provision where payments are supposed to be made 30 days after production? I'm just trying to understand how they work together.
Of course. Thank you. Excellent question. This is Eric Price for the record. This statute has primarily been for non-incentive related productions. When the incentive law was passed, it contained additional provisions. This section has to do with the registration in which productions are required to register with our office before obtaining film permits or in conjunction with obtaining film permits. So, we were updating this, but it is somewhat separate and distinct from the application for tax incentives. The tax incentive applications have different requirements that they have to meet. And this applies primarily to productions that are not tax incentive related and are just other types of productions. I hope that effectively answers your question.
I believe so. Chairwoman, may I ask a follow-up?
Go ahead.
So then there wouldn't be a situation where a production company pays all of their obligations within the 30-day period and then comes back later after taking care of some transferable tax credits and asks for any funding back or any money back. That wouldn't happen here. Eric
Price, for the record, that would not happen here, as the tax incentive program has very specific criteria for qualified production expenditures. This intention of this is for productions that are not incentivized productions and then do not have to meet those additional application requirements.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions, committee? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I have a question in section 5B. about the locations available for production of motion pictures. And that directory with the locations. So obviously, when we're talking about Hoover Dam or like aerial shots of Lake Mead or the Strip, we all know about we know how you find that because we all know about them. But what if, like, for instance, a rancher thinks, hey, I have this great piece of land and I wouldn't mind having some filming done. How do they know? Can they get into the directory, and how do they know about the directory? So
Thank you.
these iconic positions, how do Nevadans know about this?
Thank you very much for the question, Eric Price. For the record, we do our best to promote this directory. It is free to use to anyone in the state of Nevada, whether they have a private residence or a public business. We encourage it. We promote the directory via the website, through all our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, as a resource to the community. And we actively encourage people to list in the directory. The ability to use your location as a film location to, for that, receive location fees from the production company, and even possibly more important, to promote your business through the content creation industry is why we exist, to bring opportunities to those small businesses. So we do everything within our advertising budget to promote this as a resource to Nevada businesses so that they can, for free, list their business on our page at nevadafilm.com and gain the attention of these production companies and be featured in these productions, driving business results to their business, as well as location fees and increased attention. So we do our best to make that available to everyone and to make sure they know that resource exists.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you, I know this is off the top of your head, but do you have any example where someone's been able to utilize it and maybe get some business for themselves or utilize their land?
Thank you, Eric Price, for the record. Many examples. Director Brown, I believe, also has a personal example from the Mustang film that filmed in northern Nevada and won an award at Sundance, in which some of the companies that worked on that, I think he may know some people there, as well as some of the recent Christmas movies that were made in the Karst and Tahoe area. A local shop that makes Christmas ornaments got some attention out of that. So we feel very strongly that getting the word out to small businesses throughout Nevada that this is a way for free to promote their location to the content industry is definitely a great opportunity for them. And to the extent that we can do that, we do it as much as possible through our channels on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We often do location spotlights where we highlight those local businesses and drive attention to them. And it's everything that we're trying to do to promote more business in Nevada.
Okay, thank you. And then one last thing, I hadn't thought about your social media, but can you give us how people can follow you on social media? What are the handles?
Sure, thank you. We're typically everywhere at Nevada Film Office. And so we're easy to find at Nevada Film Office. Again, one of the reasons why we want to have this legislation change the name to reflect what we're under. Also at nevadafilm.com. Our website currently hits about 35,000 unique page views per month. And it's a great way to gain attention to your business through the film industry by listing on our website at those channels. So thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay, so with that, we have a question from Assemblywoman Anderson.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the presentation. And this question is not about the language that's being presented and the proposed changes. It actually was spurred on by Chair Cohen's questions. When it comes to the different outreaches, are you also working with our different chamber organizations? I know that in the Clark County area, we do have some very specialized minority chamber areas. And then also up here in the north, we've got the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce. So is there work with them as well? So I guess, for lack of a better term, are you also going through the traditional routes of some of those other organizations that have proved to be very pro-Nevada, small business friendly?
Thank you very much for the question, Eric Price, for the record. Definitely. We routinely, prior to the pandemic, go out and speak at the chamber events. The Metro Chamber of Commerce, the local Chamber of Commerces, we will speak at all these events. I'm very fortunate that my vocation and my avocation are congruent with one another. So I appreciate the opportunity at any chance possible to go out and speak at these events. And so we do that quite frequently. We'll also speak through the Clark County School District and the university system at different events. We have people within our office, myself, also Danette Tull, who is our resources coordinator, that is always out giving presentations to businesses and chapter organizations as much as possible to spread the word that the content creation industry in Nevada is one that is vital to driving our tourism and that promotes small business within the state. So any opportunity that we have, and if you have any, please let me know. I look forward to doing it all the time.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to support. BPS, if you can get us our first person in support.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 69, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 131. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin now.
Chair Cohen, members of the Committee of Assembly Revenue, my name is Connor Kane, CONNORCAIN, and I'm here to testify in support of Assembly Bill 69 on behalf of LVGEA. We appreciate that this, in many ways, the housekeeping bill per Mr. Price and Director Brown's testimony, but we also think that changes such as adding the Director of Business and Industry to the Board of Economic Development will foster more collaboration and help our state's overall economic development efforts. We thank you for your time and encourage your support of AB 69. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person in support, please.
Hi, will the caller with the last three digits, 124, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin now.
Good afternoon, Chair Cohen, Paul Moradkin, MORADKHAN with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber is in support of AB 69, and we appreciate the intent of GOED to improve its ongoing efforts of their structure and operations to better serve our economic development community. And we also appreciate their ongoing efforts for outreach. So thank you and for your consideration today.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in support?
If you are calling to testify in support of Assembly Bill 69, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, at this moment, it does not appear like we have any more in support of Assembly Bill 69.
Okay, thank you. I thought we had a few more people who wanted to testify in support. So if they're having a technical problem, if they want to try to call in, we'll still try to accommodate them because we did have them down. But with that, for now, let's go to opposition, please.
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 69, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, that line is up and working. However, we do not have any callers in opposition to Assembly Bill 69 at this time.
Okay, and neutral, please.
To testify in neutral on Assembly Bill 69, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Will the caller with the last three digits 048 please slowly state and spell your name for the record? You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Stephen Cohen for the record. Stephen with a V. Cohen as in Madam Chair. Just want to ditto remarks I made on the film office bill the other day. Hopefully we can somehow marry the two with some sort of disability talent preference. I will be hopefully able to pull the most current information on the SIA situation, which is about 2 weeks old. I looked it up after the meeting the other day, and we'll submit that to committee staff hopefully shortly. That, Madam Chair, thank you, and I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. BPS, do we have anyone else in neutral?
Chair, the public line is open and working. However, we do not have any other callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. And then if we could just make one last call for anyone in support who we might have missed.
Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers in the queue at this time.
Okay. Thank you. With that, I believe Assemblyman Yeager would like to make a comment before we ask the presenters if they'd like to make any final statements. Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note that in response to the question I asked, I had a chance to look at NevadaFilm.com, and I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time on that website. It's pretty amazing. I don't know, there's like 40 pages or more of different sites in Nevada where things can be filmed with all kinds of photos. So I just wanted to commend you on putting that together. It's really amazing, and I think I'm putting together a list of places in the state that I haven't seen yet, and maybe I can yet fire up my amateur film career, which is not started yet. But I just want to say thanks for putting that together. It's a really amazing way to highlight our state.
Thank you. And I think we'll also be, you'll have a lot more social media followers from the committee as well. I think we also have another quick question from Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you very much, Chair. Along the same lines as my colleague, I too was on your website and Twitter, and I was just curious, actually, where are you physically located? Are you up in the north, or are you down south, or do you have offices in both?
Thank you very much, Eric Price, for the record, for both the compliments and for looking at the website. Currently, we have a location here of the film office in Southern Nevada. In years past, we did have a Northern Nevada location, but now we just have the Southern Nevada location.
Thank you. So I'll ask the director if you'd like to make any closing remarks, or if anyone with your presentation would like to make any closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I think that sums it up. Very pleased that the return of the film office has been a popular topic today, and look forward to working on that. I will say one of the more popular filming locations is proving to be Comma Coffee across the street from the Capitol, just so everyone is aware. And then really appreciate your willingness to consider adding Director Reynolds and Department of Business and Industry to the board. We've been strong partners since I joined state government, and I think GOAD and B&I should really be working very closely, and that would go a long ways to that. And Jimmy and I will work with LCB staff to make sure that the quorum language is what we intended it to be, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. And with that, we will close the hearing on AB 69 and turn to public comment. As a reminder, public comment may be limited based on the number of participants. So with that, if we can have anyone for public.
To testify in public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. If you would like to place testimony for public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, we do not have any callers wishing to provide public testimony at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the committee? Okay, so with seeing, well, let me look again. Okay, seeing no one for from the committee for comments. With that, our next assembly revenue meeting will be Thursday, February 25th at 4 p.m. This concludes our meeting for today, and we are adjourned. Thank you.